So if you're anything like me, anytime a new civilization is released in a DLC, you always have an issue remembering which bonus applies to which civilization. So today we're going to look at the Armenians and the Georgians and try to figure out some clever mnemonics that will help us remember what bonuses apply to them. So right off the bat, let's look at the name Armenians. Right at the start there, the first three letters, you have the word arm. That will remind you that these guys are yoked. Everyone from the villagers up to the strongest cavalry yoked. And speaking of yokes, the mule carts cost minus 25% because they're very efficient. They use a little bit less wood. Their carrying capacity is still pretty good, but they're just a little bit smaller. They're just like little mini mule carts. They've bred the mules to be a little bit smaller. Maybe they're ponies now. I'm not entirely up on my classification of equestrian beasts. But yeah, the mule carts cost minus 25% on the yokes. But because the villagers are yoked, clever wordplay there, you might have picked up on that, the mule cart technologies are 25% more effective. So that means you're getting your double bit axe, your bow saw, really, really effectively because they're yoked. You know, you cut so well when you're yoked. And sticking on that arm theme, the first Fortified Church is already armed because it receives a free relic. Fortified Church, of course, is replacing the church, and full monk tech tree, full monastery tech tree, and the Fortified Church shoots arrows when villagers and relics are garrisoned. So this first Fortified Church is already garrisoned with a relic, and therefore it is armed to fire. All of the barracks infantry are available one age earlier, with the exception of the man-at-arms. Again, I think you know where this is going, because they're yoked. And the arms, Armenians, man-at-arms, it all makes sense. And if there's any units that aren't quite armed enough, that don't quite have the strength, of course you can rely on the Composite Bowman, the unique unit of the Armenians, who have the pull strength. Now this is just a rumor, but it's said they have the pull strength of a war elephant. And they're kind of overcompensating or trying to show off too, because their range is only 4. And you'd think with a pull strength of a war elephant, you'd be able to shoot a little bit further. But the advantage of the Composite Bowman is they can shoot through armor. So armor is just completely negated when you're trying to calculate damage. So pretty impressive. But yeah, range of 4. So despite being very strong, they might be shooting like lead arrows or something like that. I haven't gotten confirmation on that yet. And then, of course, the infantry unique tech, Feriders, because everyone is so yoked, they have just so many muscles plastered all over their body. They lose some of that flexibility that you might have, you know, when you're born. And so they rely on ferrets to try to add a little bit more mobility. They use ferrets to try to help them be a little bit more well-rounded in their day-to-day life. And of course, well-rounded people are generally a little bit healthier and a little bit tankier. So Feriders provide plus 30 HP, and warrior priests have plus 100% heal speed. The team bonus is infantry have plus 2 line of sight. Again, just a ton of infantry bonuses here. Overall, the tech tree is mostly geared towards infantry. The cab isn't terrible. They're missing the final knight armor or final cavalry armor. Siege workshops just kind of a little meh, and then they're really relying on their infantry and their monks and maybe the Composite Bowman to get everything done. Then the last few bonuses are for their navy. The galley line fires 2 projectiles, and you can remember that because going back to the name, are men who say are, and everyone knows the men who say are pirates, men of the sea. So galley line fires 2 projectiles. The second projectile only does 1 damage, so it's not as broken as it might seem originally, but I would say a little bit better than the Roman bonus. And then their Castle Age unique tech is the Cilician Fleet, that demolition ships plus 33% blast radius, and then the galley line and Dromons have plus 1 range. So all real nice bonuses. I would say they might have one of the best navies in the game, which is a little bit surprising when you look at where Armenia is located. Now, of course, the historical borders might be a little bit different, but Armenia is actually a landlocked country. It just has Lake Sevan for the Navy to train on, which, you know, in-game, Baltic might not be much bigger than that in terms of landmass, you know, relative to all the unit sizes. And of course, their neighbors are the next civilization we're going to look at, which is the Georgians. But of course, I don't know anything about Georgia because I'm just a stupid American. So we're going to look at the Georgia and the United States to use our clever mnemonics. And I say I know something about Georgia and the United States. The truth is I only know one thing. They grow peaches. So let's look at the bonus of the Georgians. They are a defensive and cavalry civilization, and they start with a mule cart but minus 50 food. And that's not a worry for the Georgians, because they have their peach orchards. Yes, that's the one fact I know about Georgians. They love peaches, or at least they grow a lot of them. I don't know if they appreciate them. Maybe you kind of get sick of something after you've had it too much. But they start with the mule cart that has minus, and the trade-off is they have minus 50 food. So they can go around collecting their peach orchards as quickly as they want right from the start of the game. Next bonus is Fortified Churches provide villagers in a 10-tile radius with a plus 10% work rate. And that's because these peach orchards are renowned. Everyone around knows about these peach orchards and how wonderfully juicy these peaches are. Even little nerds from California know all about how way out on the other side of the world in Georgia, there's these peach orchards and they're just so delicious. So they just want to come and steal these peaches. So they need to find a place for the villagers to be protected, and that's the Fortified Church. You just plop this down by the peach orchard, and the villagers are happy, and we know happy villagers make for happy peaches, and happy peaches are just going to be so much more effective than just your deer carcass, your boar carcass bringing in food. So plus 10% work rate, and of course that doesn't just apply to farmers, it applies to everyone, but for the most part, you're just going to be placing these churches, I imagine, near your farm. Though a 10-tile radius is kind of massive. 10-tile radius, not just diameter. So 10 tiles to the left, 10 tiles to the right, 10 up, 10 down. Pretty big. And there's so many peaches that are coming out of the Georgians that they're even able to give the peaches to their cavalry. Just like surplus peaches, just popping off the trees. They just go straight into the saddlebags. So when a cavalry rider is feeling a little under the weather, they just, you know, pop a peach in their mouth. Just let those sweet juices dribble down their chin. And they're able to regenerate 5 HP per minute in Feudal, 10 in Castle, 15 in Imperial Age. That's probably maybe one of the biggest bonuses the Georgians have, that they just have such a surplus. It's like a big holistic community where everyone's just kind of taking care of each other. And so much so that some of the cavalry choose to just live in the orchard. They don't take extra housing space. And that applies, of course, only in Imperial Age with Asnauri cavalry. Asnauri? I think I'm pronouncing that decently. Where cavalry units take 15% less population space. And of course, that technology is a little bit expensive, 750 food and 250 gold. But of course, with so many peach orchards, that food cost is just going to be like nothing at all. And if we go now to the defensive techs, units and buildings receive minus 15% damage when fighting from higher elevation. These are historic peach orchards. They are passed on from the master peach gardener down to the junior priest, the junior apprentice peach technician. I don't know what people call peach orchard growers. I guess just peach growers, whatever. And they have these buildings that are historic as well. They're placed on these wonderful high elevations so they can see around, look for any California nerds that are coming to steal their peaches. And these buildings have survived for so long because they receive minus 15% damage when fighting from higher elevation. They're just on such great positions surrounding the peach orchard. And of course, the team bonus is that the buildings cost 50% fewer resources to repair. These buildings have just been so easy to maintain. I think they might actually use residue from the peaches, just parts that aren't eaten, like the core. Peaches have cores? I don't actually know. I should know that as a biologist. They use the residues from the peaches as grout in between the stones of the buildings. I don't know if you knew that. Subscribe for more biofacts. And then the other unique tech applies to buildings is Savon Towers. Defensive buildings have +2 attack, and towers fire arrows that pierce multiple units. So kind of like a scorpion. So overall, pretty decent technologies. And we haven't touched on the Monospa yet. These are cavalry units that have gotten so addicted to peaches that they just kind of pool it together. This is like a commune of all of the knights that have just decided, you know what, we're going full peaches. We're even going to take the rotten peaches that no one wants, and we're going to smudge them on the swords. So they come in together and they pile all the rotten peaches together and then divvy them back out, and they put the rotten peaches on the sword. And then that just starts playing mind games with the enemy. They're like, why do I smell rotten peaches when this group of cavalry is charging me? And that effect is that they are stronger together, and they do +1 damage when other manospas and knightlines are nearby. +1 damage for every 5, up to a total of +4 damage if you have 20 other manospa nearby. So that's almost like, you know, with the advantage that lightists have, but you don't even have to collect relics. You just have to have a nice peach economy that allows you to support a lot of manospa. Just to be clear, there actually isn't any peaches as like a new building or resource gathering point. I don't want to confuse anyone too bad. This is supposed to be informative. Hopefully that's not the case. So if we look at the overall tech tree, archer lines, what you expect for a cavalry civilization, though heavy cav archer with Parthian tactics could be an option, even though they're missing thumb ring. With the heavy cav archer buff recently, the minimum accuracy I think is 80% now for heavy cav archer, whereas, you know, standard cav archer is only 50%. Barracks is decent. I should also mention for archery range, they are missing the last armor. For archers, stable, you'd expect them to have Paladin, but they don't. Kind of reminds me of the Slavs overall with how this tech tree comes together. They have Siege Ram, Siege Honor, Heavy Scorpion, but no BBC. Missing Ring Archer armor. Navies, not great. Missing Drydock and Shipwright, and they have Cumans Galleon instead of Dromon. Okay, it's just the Armenians that have Dromon because, of course, they are pirates. They are the Armen. And the last big differences between the Georgians and the Armenians are that the Georgians have siege engineers. They are defensive. They need to protect their peach orchards, whereas the Armenians are just happy with just using the brute strength of their arms. They don't know what the word leverage means. They don't have siege engineers. And the final change, or final difference, I should say, is for the Fortified Church, the Georgians do not have the armored monk. Armored monk? Warrior monk. They do not have the warrior monk. They just have the plain monk, and they're missing atonement and illumination. Let me know if this was a helpful review. I could do one for the new Persians if it helps you remember, or if you just enjoy it just for the entertainment value. Let me know in the comments, and I'll see you there.